Hello, everybody. So we're going to do another little video for you. It's another video about Metascience, and this one today is entitled "How Does AI Intersect with Metascience?" So we're just going to talk for 5 to 10 minutes just on the key points about that. You know, how AI and Metascience interact. So my name's Helen Buckley Woods. I'm Senior Research Fellow at Research on Research Institute, and I work at UCL at Steep. And I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Youyou Wu. Like to introduce yourself, Youyou?
Yeah, I'm Youyou Wu, and I'm trained as a psychologist, but turned meta-science. I'm part of the Research on Research Institute, and I research at UCL.
Thank you. So yeah, Youyou and I worked on a RoRI project called Grail last year, which is Grail was entitled Getting Responsible About AI and Machine Learning in Research, Funding and Evaluation. So we worked with a group of funders who were using AI in their policy and practice, and the key output from that was a handbook, which you can see on RoRI's website, called Funding by Algorithm. A handbook for responsible uses of AI and machine learning by research funders. So do look that up if you're interested in funding, research funding and AI. But we're going to look a little bit broader about AI today and about meta-science, meta-research. So first question, Youyou, is how will AI impact the ability of researchers to conduct science on science or meta-research?
Yes, I think AI as a tool, especially generative AI, has made doing meta-science or science of science easier. And one area that's particularly noticeable or interesting is when working with text. We know that a lot of the core meta-science data is in the form of text, like intuitively when you think of grant proposals, publications, or patents, they are texts written by people to communicate science, right? But for a long time, I think these textual data was not used by quantitative researchers, and instead people use like simple numeric metrics like citation counts or impact factors rather than focusing on the substance of what was being written. But over the past few years, I've repeatedly seen researchers use AI to code or work with large amount of text. For example, I heard a talk recently where the researchers study how preprints, like manuscripts on preprints, evolved across versions, and they use ChatGPT to classify whether the change of the manuscript from one version to the next, whether that the changes were superficial, like grammatical changes, or just simple tidying up, or substantial, like adding of new ideas. So they use ChatGPT to study this kind of substantive questions. And what struck me was that during that talk, the researchers, they barely mentioned that they use ChatGPT or LLM to do the classification and the processes involved. Of course, the details were in the paper, but during the talk, they didn't bother to explain. And it was treated by them more as a routine. So that really I think that hit me. I think if 2 years ago someone said that they were using ChatGPT to do this kind of labeling, that would require some more like specialized expertise and a long explanation of what they did. But now more and more people just use AI off the shelf to work with text, and has gradually been accepted and become normalized, at least in certain contexts in meta science. So I think it means that with AI, more people can do meta science and tap into these core textual data in ways that were not routine before, and not just those with advanced technical skills or infrastructure. Everyone who has access to AI is able to do that without like extensive training. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of opening up a bit more, opening up meta science more to
Yeah.
a broader number of people. Yeah, in that perspective.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, so following on from that, do you think AI makes new areas of metascience possible. It's a slightly different angle. I think it's making the sort of
I think
or will it enhance existing approaches? So it's like new areas, or I suppose you've already talked about the enhancement.
yes, it will definitely enhance, but I'm more excited about it opening up new areas of meta science. So you can see like many research data platforms now offer new metrics that are enabled by AI. Like instead of simple citation counts, we now have from cite whether the citations are supportive or critical. We have sentiment analysis of media responses to research. And the point is that as these new metrics become available at scale, provided by these platforms, researchers can ask questions that were previously too costly or complex to study. For example, there's a recent paper looking at how mainstream media and social media reacts to research differently using sentiment analysis and using the metrics provided by the platform. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to jumpstart completely new areas given these changes. And on top of that, I think because AI is becoming a part of how science is done, so it creates new meta science problems that didn't previously exist, right? So that's part of that as well. So I think AI kind of expands meta science both because the research tools broadens what we can measure and analyze, but also as a new research topic known as AI meta science.
Yeah, and it's like the ethics of how it's used and
Yeah.
those kinds of things.
Yeah, definitely.
Questions. And how it would expand and how it would bring us into new topics and those kind of
Yes
that you mentioned. So we're going to end on a more kind of negative, but maybe what might some of the concerns be. So is AI likely to generate increased fraud in science? Is this something that meta science researchers are likely to be concerned about?
A big topic, right? I think on balance, yes. I think AI will make it, or has already made it easier for individual researchers to commit fraud, like fabricating data, falsifying results, plagiarism, and I think
the mails and things.
That as well. And then I think if someone wants to commit fraud today, scientific fraud, AI can be a powerful partner. Like it can do so many things so quickly. I think it will actually be an interesting red team exercise that you can revisit previous frauds that were high profile and imagine how AI would change them. Like which steps would become easier, which safeguards would fail, and whether previous detection methods would still work. But I think I agree with you, especially this paper mill problem, like because it's not just those like isolated fraudulent behaviors that we worry about, but also how AI can enable fraud at scale. I think a recent PNAS study shows that fraudulent papers, fake papers, are increasingly produced not just by individuals, but by like a network of paper mills, editors, predatory journals, and AI will certainly accelerate these practices. It has already accelerated to the point that the existing system can't cope with it. So I think meta scientists needs to be concerned with both detecting individual behaviors, specific behaviors, but also the broader systematic patterns. Like in terms of detecting individual behaviors, there are people working on like statistical and image forensics and often using AI. So there's sort of a race between fraud generation and fraud detection. And some people are also looking at structural incentives and systematic patterns that allow these practices to become more popular. So I think at these two levels, both the individual level and the system level, understanding and informing reforming these practices is very important. Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of different stakeholders involved in trying to understand how these things work. For example, all the academic publishers have, whole teams that are, look into, these processes and the sort of
Yeah.
scale complexity of how they work to try and, safeguard the
Yeah.
record and the work that's being published. Yeah, so that's interesting that it's thinking about it in those two different levels, individual behavior and then these like broader systemic issues that we have.
Right.
Well, we've come to the end of our short video. Don't think there's any final things you'd like to add, Yo-Yo, or are you happy to conclude for today?
I think it's very exciting that AI metascience has become its own topic. There are just so many things that are evolving and interesting to study. So I think that we will have a lot of fun. Although it's like a negative topic about fraud, but we will have a lot of fun just thinking about it.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you
Yeah.
for your time today.